Have you ever noticed that the tighter you hold on to someone, hoping they'll fill that emptiness inside, the more hollow you actually feel? It's strange, isn't it? You convince yourself it's love or connection, yet no matter how tightly you grip, the loneliness only grows deeper. But what if the real issue here isn't the relationship itself? What if the true reason you're stuck, unable to break free, is something deeper, hidden beneath the surface? Maybe it's not them you're afraid of losing. Maybe it's yourself. Think about it carefully. Is the person occupying your mind right now truly irreplaceable? Or are they merely representing something within you that you've long avoided? Are you afraid of facing who you might be without them, confronting your own feelings of inadequacy, insecurity, or the unsettling belief that, without their validation, you simply aren't enough? Carl Jung gently pointed out that our strongest attachments to others often mirror the unhealed parts within ourselves. The truth is, every intense relationship, every desperate clinging, reflects wounds we've chosen to overlook or suppress. But here's a deeper question for you. What if facing this inner truth is precisely what's needed to finally feel whole again? There's something profoundly liberating about realizing that your struggle isn't truly with letting someone else go. It's about reclaiming yourself. It's about bravely stepping into that emptiness, no longer filling it with someone else's presence, but discovering what you're genuinely missing inside. What if the only way out of your pain isn't by holding on, but by turning inward and facing the very things you've avoided for far too long? If you had the courage to confront this, who would you become? The real reason you can't let go is deeper than love or memories. It's quieter, hidden beneath the surface, tucked away in places you're afraid to look. It's the part of you that's still hurting from rejection, abandonment, or never truly feeling good enough. It's the child inside who still wonders, am I valuable? Do I matter? So you latch onto someone else, hoping they'll provide the answers you desperately seek. You convince yourself it's love, but deep down, you know better. You're not clinging to them. You're clinging to the feeling of worth, validation, or comfort they once gave you. Think about it. How many times have you returned to someone who, in your heart, you know isn't good for you? You see the signs, feel the tension, know exactly how the story ends, and yet you keep coming back. Why? Because there's a void inside you, like a bottomless vessel that nothing and no one ever seems able to fill. They pour love, affection, promises into you, but it's never enough. Each moment of reassurance fades quickly, leaving you empty again, waiting for the next drop of validation. Have you ever stopped to wonder why their approval feels so crucial? Whose voice are you really trying to silence? The uncomfortable truth is that it's never really been about them. The person occupying your mind isn't actually the source of your suffering. They're simply playing a role you've unconsciously cast them in. A role that's less about who they are and more about what you think you lack. When you idealize someone, turning them into your personal savior or the perfect partner, you're not seeing them clearly. You're seeing your own unfulfilled needs projected outward. It's not them you truly miss. It's the version of yourself you become when you're with them. The version that feels loved, valued, important. You hold tightly onto memories, not because they're truly perfect, but because in hindsight they feel safer than facing the reality of your own loneliness. Consider the way you remember your former relationships. You gloss over the pain, magnify the good moments, and slowly that person becomes someone they never actually were. Someone perfect, someone irreplaceable. But is this really fair to them or to you? How long can you stare into that cracked mirror, hoping to see a reflection of your true self clearly? How distorted will your self-image become before you acknowledge that you're searching in the wrong place? Here's the harsh truth. The longer you avoid facing the emptiness within, the deeper the cycle of dependence becomes. You're not trapped because you can't live without them. You're trapped because you're afraid to live with yourself, alone, with your insecurities and fears laid bare. What would happen if you stopped chasing after someone else's validation and started looking inward instead? What are you really afraid you'll find inside? Maybe the hardest realization is knowing that the only way out isn't by holding on tighter, but by gently, deliberately releasing your grip. Emotional detachment isn't about losing someone. It's about reclaiming yourself. It's the powerful act of stepping away from illusions and idealizations to see clearly who you are, independently from the presence or absence of someone else. So, where do you even begin? First, look honestly at your projections, those subtle expectations you've placed onto someone else. What exactly have you assigned to them? Is it security, a sense of worthiness, a feeling of belonging? Understand clearly that these qualities are yours to reclaim. Stop running from yourself and ask bluntly, what is it within me that I refuse to confront alone? Then, let yourself see the other person for who they genuinely are, flaws and strengths alike. Not as your emotional anchor, not as your savior, not as the idealized figure you've built up, but simply as a human being. They're not perfect, they never were. When you begin to see this clearly, their hold over you weakens, because now you realize your happiness isn't, and was never meant to be, dependent on them. Most importantly, reconnect with parts of yourself that you've neglected. Rediscover your own passions, hobbies, dreams, those simple things that used to make your heart feel alive, before someone else's validation became your measure of worth. Remember who you were before they became your everything. Ask yourself clearly, who am I truly without someone else's gaze defining me? Imagine a woman named Laura. She found herself repeatedly checking her phone, anxious, desperate for any sign of attention from someone who had begun to drift away. Every silent notification felt like rejection. One day, exhausted from this emotional cycle, Laura took the simple step of turning her phone off for an entire day. She expected anxiety, panic, maybe sadness. Instead, she discovered peace, a strange, unsettling calmness. Laura realized that the anxiety she had been feeling wasn't about the other person's absence. It was about facing herself alone. She had been terrified of who she'd be without someone else there to define her worth, her happiness. For the first time, Laura understood that the validation she'd chased so desperately was never theirs to give. It was always hers to reclaim. Could it be the same for you? Could your anxiety and emptiness be less about someone else's presence and more about your fear of meeting yourself clearly, openly, without distraction? The truth is, emotional freedom comes from facing these difficult inner truths, not running from them. It's about setting clear emotional boundaries, not as punishment, but as profound acts of self-respect. When you place limits on how much emotional energy you give away, you're reclaiming your power. You're reminding yourself that your inner peace isn't dependent on someone else's moods, approval, or presence. This journey inward, as Carl Jung gently describes, is the path of individuation, the brave, honest journey towards becoming whole. It's about acknowledging synchronicities, those subtle moments when life quietly confirms you're finally aligning with your authentic self. What if detachment isn't a goodbye at all, but rather a beautiful, courageous hello to yourself? What if stepping away from emotional dependence is the very key to finally discovering your own completeness, strength, and inner freedom? Who would you become if you stopped looking outward for validation and instead bravely, compassionately turned inward to find it within yourself? The moment you truly understand emotional detachment isn't about losing someone is the exact moment your life begins to shift. Letting go feels like a profound loss at first, like giving up something deeply valuable. But pause for a second and look closer. What exactly are you losing? Are you genuinely losing the person, or are you losing the carefully constructed illusion you've built around them? This belief that without them, you somehow can't be whole. Think about it clearly. All this time, you've stood in front of a door, slightly ajar. You've been stuck, unsure whether to push it open or shut it forever. You linger in uncertainty, afraid of fully entering and equally terrified of closing it behind you. This partially open door symbolizes your indecision, your hesitation to reclaim your emotional independence. You stand there waiting, hoping for something external to push you through, never realizing the power to choose has always been yours. Ask yourself honestly, what would happen if you gathered the courage to close that door, to finally let it click shut behind you? Yes, it might hurt at first, maybe deeply. Yet the moment you gently but decisively close that door, you take back your emotional freedom. For the first time, you stop allowing someone else to dictate your happiness, your self-worth, and your inner peace. The truth is, this open door has always kept you trapped. You believed that by keeping it ajar, you'd protect yourself from loss, loneliness, and the unbearable weight of absence. But has it really protected you? Or has it only prolonged your suffering, holding you hostage to a situation that no longer serves your growth, your joy, or your genuine self? Here's the deeper realization. You aren't actually losing anyone when you let go. The only thing you truly lose is the illusion that you were ever incomplete without them. This illusion has been controlling you, whispering softly that you aren't enough on your own, that you need external validation to feel worthy and loved. But that's a lie. A gentle, persistent lie you've internalized so deeply, it feels like truth. Right now, in this very moment, let me ask you something powerful. If you continue to cling to what clearly isn't meant for you, how many chances at true happiness are slipping silently through your fingers? How many beautiful, authentic moments are passing you by because your hands are full, desperately gripping something that doesn't belong to your future? How many genuine connections, meaningful opportunities, and life-changing experiences will you unknowingly push aside simply because you're unwilling to let go of something that's no longer yours to hold? Look inward. Ask yourself, is the fear of temporary emptiness worth losing the profound fulfillment of what could truly belong to you? You see, emotional detachment isn't a cruel goodbye. It's a courageous reclaiming of your own inner power. It's the bold act of acknowledging that your life is yours to define, that your worth is intrinsic, and your completeness isn't tied to another person's presence or absence. For too long, you've waited for someone else to give you permission to feel whole. You've waited outside that partially open door, hoping they'd walk through, bring you peace, comfort, or validation. But consider this. What if no one else can walk through that door and give you what you're looking for? What if the person you've been waiting for all this time is yourself? Close your eyes and imagine the feeling of finally letting go. Not with bitterness or anger, but with deep clarity and compassion. Imagine how freeing it would feel to gently release that heavy weight you've carried for so long, the burden of holding on to something that never belonged to you. Imagine reclaiming yourself, your dreams, your passions, your joy, and feeling genuinely whole again, entirely independent of another person's approval or presence. This isn't a theory or philosophy. This is your life. It's your emotional well-being, your future, your inner peace. You deserve far more than standing halfway through a doorway, afraid to step forward or back. You deserve the freedom, peace, and genuine fulfillment that comes from clearly and intentionally choosing yourself. It's time now, gently, compassionately, to take your power back, to understand deeply that what you're leaving behind isn't the person themselves, but the limiting belief that without them, you're incomplete. By letting go, you open yourself to opportunities, connections, and experiences that align naturally with who you truly are. So now, standing here at this partially open door, ask yourself this: are you ready to gently push it shut and embrace the freedom waiting on the other side? Are you ready to stop holding on to illusions, ready to stop waiting for someone else to complete you, and ready to finally rediscover the person you've always been? The person who's been patiently waiting for your attention, your compassion, your own acknowledgement. Closing this door is not the end. It's your new beginning. It's your quiet, courageous declaration that from this moment forward, your worth and joy will never again be determined by someone else's presence or absence. The real question isn't if you can live without this person. The real question is, are you finally ready to fully embrace the person you become when you're not defined by anyone else? Close the door gently. Take a deep breath. Welcome home to yourself. Letting go isn't saying goodbye to someone else. It's finally saying hello to yourself, to the truest, most authentic version of you. It's gently releasing the illusion that you need someone else to feel whole and warmly welcoming your own strength, freedom, and completeness. Take a moment and imagine how your life could shift if, instead of seeking approval or validation elsewhere, you began to fully embrace your own worth. Who would you become if your inner peace no longer depended on another person? Right now, pause and ask yourself, are you ready to choose freedom? Are you ready to step into a life defined by your own terms, filled with genuine joy and self-acceptance? If something inside you shifted during this reflection, gently type the word freedom in the comments below. Consider it your quiet commitment, a simple yet powerful reminder that you deserve peace, happiness, and true inner fulfillment. You deserve to step beyond your fears and live authentically. Remember, your freedom isn't somewhere outside you. It's right here, within you, patiently waiting for you to claim it.